All right, hello, everyone. Happy Thursday. Welcome to this weekly market check-in with myself, Greta Wall. I'm your host, and I'm joined by David Prince, the leader of T3 Live's Inner Circle virtual trading floor. Hello, David. Happy Thursday. How's your day going so far?
It is a great day. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry about the mess. We're doing some work back here.
You're good. All right. So our topic today is Trump market week 1. So we are 3 days into the new Trump market, Trump 2.0. We've already got one administration and now we're into a second administration, with the S&P 500 hitting a record high yesterday and then hitting another record today as well, touching that record after pulling back. How have you navigated the market so far this week, and have you noticed any changes since Trump took over on Monday?
Yeah, a buddy of mine asked me today, said, I know you have a little experience with Trump personally, and he literally just asked us on Inner Circle a little while ago. He's like, how do you think he is this time around as 2.0 different? And I said, I actually think it is. I think he is less aggressive, a little bit more mature. I think his presentation, and by the way, I'm not into politics, so there's going to be some idiot who's like, he didn't do this and he didn't live up to this. And that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is how he presents himself and conveys thought, and how aggressive or lack of aggressive he might be. And I find it different. I find him a more mature version of himself. And I think the market appreciates it. And we clearly, right, whether like it or not, we don't know how much adds up to, comes to fruition in terms of numbers and changing companies, but the magnitude of what he's doing, right? The amount of documents he's signing, and Stargate, and the border, the amount of things he's getting done, right? Make no mistake, this is the beginning of things. So again, I'm going to have to deal with someone who says, well, it's just talk. I don't care about that. What I care about is we're watching him do more, right? And live up to what he said than we've seen in a long time from any president, and especially himself. So to me, he's not just a mouthpiece. He's actually starting to get things done. Now, does it add up to big, massive changes? I don't know, but I see 2.0 being a bit different, and I think the market appreciates it.
And I mean, for what it's worth, all the market really cares about is narrative as things go through. The market trades on stories.
So well said.
So, he can say whatever he wants and do whatever he wants. And even if that doesn't come to fruition, the trade on that has already come and gone, and the market's on
will be penalized on the back end, but that doesn't mean we won't see stocks like Oracle do what it did yesterday, or ARM, et cetera. We know there's some changes today, but that's exactly right. So for our purposes, I only care, and I go through this with traders who are thinkers and not great traders. I only care about the narrative, because narrative is 90% of short-term moves. So yeah, couldn't agree more.
Totally. When it comes to the Stargate initiative, the AI initiative that Trump announced, what does that mean for you as a trader in the AI space, with the government getting involved now and really ramping up, so Trump says, the involvement in AI for that space?
Okay, here's what it means. As a trader, someone who manages money short term, whether it be a month, 6 months, as opposed to looking out a year or two, is that opinions only mean so much. Let me give you an example. I'm sure there's someone out there who's like, Oracle, it's near highs, and I don't like it, and I'm kind of bearish the next quarter. By the way, last quarter on Oracle wasn't great. If you remember, the stock traded down quite a bit. Now, no one cared about that yesterday, right? All they cared about was that they actually have like a coming out party in AI, and are perhaps taking some business away from other people like Microsoft or OpenAI. You get the idea, or just Microsoft and working with OpenAI. The point is, so you could be bearish longer term, think it's expensive, and you can get your butt handed to you yesterday. So I think what it means is you have to understand the narrative works first, and fading the masses isn't always smart unless you do it very specifically. And I went through that with a buddy today. He's like, we should be shorting more. I'm like, we short plenty. I shorted, I shorted this week earlier, but they're Q trades. The market is still going higher. I mean, look at what NASDAQ did today, right? We were down quite a bit, and a few minutes ago, we're pulling back now, but a few minutes ago, we were only down like 30. So I think it means that you have to be aware that we're still in a bull market. I mean, I bought the Qs last week at 500. They hit 533 in 7 or 8 trading days. That's pretty magnificent. So I think it means you have to be open-minded and understand the narrative is very bullish. That said, yesterday we started taking a lot of profits on a lot of different names because I said, listen, the Qs have just had the equivalent of a 7% move off the bottom almost, maybe 6%. So is it time to be aggressive? No, it's probably time to size down. Moreover, we have the biggest earnings of this season coming up next week. So it's probably time to maybe take some profits or hedge. So what it means to me is, hey, there's a lot of excitement. Often the last 10% of a market move or 5% of a great market move is the most vicious, right? It's where you see stocks like what just happened with Tempest AI go up 50, 60, 70% overnight. And it's time to be open-minded because the more and more Trump presents a Stargate or let's say a Bitcoin reserve, not saying he is, but let's say these things happen, they will move stocks in the short term. So being that I don't want to be down 20% to make 50%, meaning short a bunch of things, very open-minded to the market going higher. That said, after the size of the move we just had from last Monday, where I was a very aggressive buyer of stocks, I'm neutral to a tad bearish here going into next week.
When you look at the market, what are the levels that you're currently monitoring for buys or sells?
I would say the Qs, have led so much to the action for us. So as opposed to a lot of people who are all about the SPY and SPX, for us, it's been about the Qs. So after being pretty aggressive, we used TQQ when it was down at 500. And I'm still long some, I've sold most of it, but we were at 73, 74. So as it coincides with the Qs, it was down at 500. Are we going to pull right back to 500? No. So the major area I care about short term is going to be 525 is the earliest that I start to be interested. There's a small pivot there. And then more importantly, the 21-day, which is rising a bit, that's down at 518, 519. So if I am to re-engage and get long the Qs, we'd have to get closer to the 21-day. So call it 518. But like a lot of times, we were very, very focused on indices. During market corrections, I like to bet on the indices, right? Because that's my edge. And then the stocks follow. So that was last week. Now that we're here, I'm back to what's underneath the hood. Where can we make money the most in individual equities? So right here, after a 30-point bounce in the Qs, I'm much more about individual equities than I am the indices.
All right. The nature of the market under Trump's first administration was it could be very volatile, depending on what he had to say, what he had to tweet. When came to the China talks, we could get large swings up and down in one day based on what he said about a deal or whether or not it was happening. You mentioned earlier that Trump seems to be a lot better with his presentation this time around. Do you expect less of those whipsaw reactions from the market when it comes to this administration?
Not because of that. I think with anything, right, you get less of a reaction as people become accustomed to things. We saw it last time around during his presidency when China, we'd had these massive moves and then there'd be more tariff news and we'd have less massive moves. And eventually we sometimes would go the opposite direction of what conventionally people thought we'd go. Like they thought BABA would go down and it would go up. So I think people are so prepared and so focused on the nature of some of his statements, excuse the expression, at times they can be flippant, and how markets move, that I just think that'll be drowned out a bit more. Now, if they're monster announcements like 500 billion in infrastructure, sure, the market's going to react. But in terms of the flippant nature of maybe there'll be tariffs, maybe they're not, I think we've just become adjusted to the type of precedent we're dealing with, and we'll have perhaps less reaction because we've just gotten accustomed to it,
All right, let's talk a little bit about what you've been doing in the inner circle. We'll start with today. You guys have been really active in Tempest AI today, the ticker, and that's TEM. You've been active in both stock and calls today, buying stock as low as the 47s earlier this morning. Your calls were a 100% gain as well. What was your thesis on Tempest and what got you into this stock this morning?
So my thesis is I've really been very bullish the name for about a month, as it is kind of the AI medical play, right? If there is one, right, everyone claims to be. This is one that works with thousands, not a few hundred, thousands of doctors, that works with almost every major biotech company in the world, that actually has a founder that's been involved with another public company that has real revenue, not like pie in the sky stuff. So you look at that, you realize how strong the AI theme is, and then, you know, the creme de la creme, which is silly, but it is reality. We're in the tail end of a bear market, and Miss Pelosi, or Mrs. Pelosi, recently bought stock, or options, I should say, and that lit the stock up. I think more importantly, what it did is it awoke a few people to a special story that's very unique in nature, right? You can't, like, there's a small little one, RXRX, that NVIDIA's invested in, but it doesn't have real revenue, and it's not working with every major pharmaceutical company. So what this did is it put a newer equity that just had a big lockup, so all the selling's out of it, on the map. Anyone who wanted to sell was selling below 40, and it awoke. So long story short, the stock in a very short period of time goes from low 30s to 55. And you know, I love to say this, the first pullback is the most special, because there's a lot of people who miss this move. So the very first time it pulls back into a moving average, 47 was the moving average. It was also yesterday's lows. We went out and said, this is our shot, you know, to add to the position. Just double checking. I guess it's it's the 50 day. So we bought stock and calls. We bought the 50 calls for February, and we bought plenty of stock. Sold a lot of those calls because they doubled. I have a little bit left, and still have plenty of stock. But 8-point move, 20% move, and in a stock this is not $1 billion company. It's 8-9 billion. We trim some stock too, but this is a very much front and center play for AI in the medical community, and it's a very real company with a very real management team. Also, it's got SoftBank behind it and Google behind it, so there's a lot of meat on the bone here.
What you did with this name is something you do a lot. You'll buy equities and then also buy calls to amplify the move and give yourself just even more of a gain. When it comes to a position like this, you a 20% move on the stock and a 100% move on the calls. Why the calls also in addition to the equity, and not just take the 20% gain on the stock?
I think what we always say is it's a way to create cash flow and still be a bit of a longer term investor. And frankly, it's as simple as this. When we really like something, meaning Inner Circle, me, Kira, Rick, we're buying stock and calls because it's a way to leverage our bet and not just own stock, because calls obviously as a percentage will often move more. So it really signifies that we like the position a lot. If I don't, I'm often starting with calls thinking, maybe it'll pull back more. Or I'm shorting something thinking maybe it goes a bit higher. So when we're doing both, it's because we actually really like the name a lot.
All right, there you go. Everyone who is watching is in our circle. He's buying stock and calls. He really likes the idea. Let's talk about Netflix. The news of the week, of course, being their earnings report, and it was a great reaction from the market. And then we got a pullback yesterday. That pullback yesterday gave you an opportunity to get into some calls for your options trading newsletter. Those were the January 31st 980s. Bought them just before the close yesterday and up over 70% this morning at the open. You did this personally, but this was in your Epic Trades newsletter. That came after you were able to catch a quick little bounce in Netflix after the open yesterday. You got a pullback, 10-point move in under 5 minutes.
Right. So there's two different trades here. For an active trader that's experienced, they'll be very familiar with the trade I talked about. So this is what Inner Circle said, what we did via the stock and the options. So you have the report. And I said, listen, this is like, if you really look at it, they have pricing power. Prices are going higher on both premium and basic. They doubled expectations on subs, which is where the story is. And they're actually earning a lot of money and trade at a fairly reasonable valuation. However, it was priced to move 70 and it's up 140, 150. So at 999, 1,000, could you short some? I said, absolutely. You want to be cute and short some? Do so. I said, you can do that right off the open or pre-market. I said, I probably won't because it'll mess up my buy. I am looking, I said, this is not conventional trading, but I do it very often. When I fundamentally like a story, I will avoid the cute short and I will look for where can I really buy stock and feel good about it, whether it's a trade or long term. So my plan is, I said, listen, I don't know if it's pulling back this much, but if it pulls back 30 or 40, I'm a buy. So bang, it pulls back hard and fast at 973 and 4. I buy half of a position. At 968, 970, I buy the other half. It bounces to 980. I'm out of a bit more than half. And by 990, I was flat the stock or out of 80 or 90%. So that's the trade. Now, had it not bounced so much, I wouldn't take it. But I made like 20 points on some of it. So I'm like, okay, that was the fun trade. Now let's see how it trades as a stock, less short term. Does it indicate there's a bottom? Throughout the day, it didn't. It actually turned all the way back down. It made new lows. And people say, well, because it was such a good trade, do we get back in? I said, no, you got to kind of let it trade now. Because if it keeps making new lows all day, that's not the most positive sign. And no good trader is just going to buy weakness if it's not bottoming ever. So we looked at the chart and said, okay, what's the natural area it would hold? Well, sure enough, it would be the previous highs. Without looking at the chart, it was like 941.75, something like that, 941, 942. So I said 950 or lower, that's a great spot if you're a call buyer where you probably get paid and could be a bit more aggressive. So as the stock came into 950, 951, because I always say anyone who tries to be exact, you never make money, not as a trader. You'll always miss stuff. So what we did is got to 950, 951. We thought, wow, this is a great idea for the newsletter. Bought calls for us, Inner Circle newsletter. And I thought, hey, it might bounce 10, 15. We'll make 30, 40%. And it bounces 30. And they went up like, I sold early, up 70%. I think they went up 130%. But that was kind of the formation of the trade. And I like to express it because how we trade, and I think what people learn from me the most, or I hope they do, but I like to say I think they do, is how to manage money. Let me give you an example. If they skipped the first trade was what I felt really confident in, right? And I had a 20-point move on some of my stock. If they skipped that trade, most of them didn't, then they're playing from ahead. And even without a defined bottom at the close, because it's some guesswork there, like it should bottom in the 940s, they can go ahead because they're playing from ahead, maybe, and buy some. And if it goes a bit lower today, add to it. So it's kind of one big trade if you look at it, and that's what I wanted to express. It's from the beginning of the day all the way to this morning when we sold. But a lot of it is about doing the first trade, doing it right, and levering that success.
When it comes to the reaction to Netflix's earnings report, what does it signal for you about this earnings season overall and what's to come? We got a big week next week with Meta, Microsoft, Apple. Nothing?
No, it's such an individual story, right? Anyone who's been around understands Netflix is an individual unto itself that has so little to do with tech spending and interest rates, maybe a little bit the dollar, because obviously a lot of their growth is foreign. So here's what it signifies. Wow, this company might have a whole new growth vehicle via live events, right? In sports. Do you get crazy up here? No. Stock's up 300-400% since the famous Ackman bottom type thing. But do you bet against it? Probably not. Like, things are really going well, but it doesn't signify a lot to us or the market. The only thing it signifies is, are people willing to buy good earnings reports and take a stock higher that has done well for the last 12 months? And that told us something. Absolutely. It's not like, oh my God, every stock's gone up so much, even good news takes it down. So that is probably primarily in terms of what do I take from Netflix to the other stocks? It's, hey, you can still get paid on good results. Everything hasn't gone so far that even good results get sold. That's what it tells me.
It feels like anytime a stock is hitting $1,000, the stock split discussion comes up. Do you expect Netflix to do any kind of split in the future?
Be direct. I think Ted is one of the brightest guys out there. I don't think they're in a rush. If you really look at stock splits the past few years, especially the most recent ones, every one of those stocks got killed.
Yeah.
Frankly, right? Why not build investors that are loyal? When you're splitting the stock and bringing in retail investors, often you're not bringing in long-term investors. You're bringing in traders. I know they like to say it enables people to invest. You can buy 50 shares of the stock or 20 shares. It moves the same as a percentage. So you'll make 100 points instead of it splitting 5-for-1 and it moving 20 points. So to me, that's all cockamamie stuff. And I really think that we're finding out that stock splits aren't always good. I get it. Some people like to do it. It's friendly to shareholders. It's friendly to employees. It's not imperative here. So I wouldn't be shocked if they did it, but I'm not betting on it. I don't think it has to happen. And I don't think, as we all know, it makes any bit of difference. And if anything, we've seen horrible performance after stock splits a year ago. So.
Yeah. I mean, you can't say that Netflix isn't moving at $1,000. So
by the way, as a trader, I hate stock splits. I used to trade 100,000 shares of Apple every day. Back when it was 500 to 1,000, you get this great volatility. Few traders I know want these stock splits because, hell, you know how cool it is to have Netflix go up 130, come in 50, and then bounce 30? That doesn't happen when it's a $200 stock. So as far as I'm concerned, I like volatility. I feel comfortable in it. And the way to create volatility is to have bigger stocks and wider ranges.
Let's talk about ALAB. You nailed the bottom in ALAB this week. You gave this away for free on Twitter on Monday. You said a name I first brought to you at $80 has been a huge winner for us. I went flat a few weeks ago and love to be long near 120. So 120 was your buy spot. And if we look at Tuesday's chart, you can see right there, bottomed right around the 120 mark. Your levels were on point. I know many people on Twitter got in with you at that 120 mark. I think you got flat the last of the stock this morning
today. So that worked out great. And like I always say, listen, it's earnings season. I'm not making any big bets unless I feel very comfortable with earnings. Give an example, like Google, I'm very, very positive into the print. ALAB, well, it's pretty simple, right? Amazing growth. So ingrained in AI. It's the leading connectivity company. It seems to be like making an inroads against competitors like Broadcom, and it works with NVIDIA. Everything's going right. Here's what's going wrong. The stock just went from last quarter after they reported earnings from 80 to 140. So is some built in? Maybe. So when I buy it at 120 and the same day it's 126, 127, I'm selling most because we're in front of earnings season. Now today's a different story. So on my morning call, I said, listen, we did well with ALAB, but it's testing that 50-day and it shouldn't keep pulling back. So expect a bit more, right? Today could be a bit more ugly. Sure enough, it broke the 50-day and really flushed. I actually tried to trade it. I was a bit early. I was down a few, then I was down one. I took a loss on what I bought today because we got to keep it real. And since then, it keeps going higher. And I actually could have made $4 on the stock and actually lost $1. So truth is, it's been a great week with ALAB, but today, not my day on ALAB. Bottom line, love the company, think things are great. Very hard to be super bullish. Like there's certain stocks, I don't care, being down 4 or 5, I'll add more. I have a plan. This is not a company that is earning that much money, like toward growth, but it's not cheap and it's hard to get really aggressive in front of earnings season. So if it pulls back closer to 100, 110, that's like a meaty area. I'd be very comfortable buying before earnings. Here, it's more of a trade, and I wasn't a great trader with it today. Net, I'm up on the week on it because it did really well for us, 120 to 127. But today, I've done better. Kira bought it with me and held it. So she's actually making money on it today.
All right, talking about Kira and Rick quickly, your counterparts in the inner circle. They had a great trade with the ARM calls this week. 1,000% gainer on these calls.
That's a hats off to them.
Yeah, they bought these calls, the 170s, the January 31st 170s, before the close on Tuesday. I mean, you can see the chart absolutely exploded yesterday. They were buying these under $2 and they hit a high of like just under 15.
Yeah. All I know is there were ones that went up 1,000%. I was like, oh.
Yeah, the room followed, as you can see from the the screenshot of the chat there, talking about the importance of having Rick and Kira for these kind of ideas, in addition to what you provide the inner circle as well.
Okay. It's going to come off a little. See what we're doing now?
What?
No, what we're doing. What are we doing?
What are we doing?
We're talking. I'm not trading.
Yeah. Right.
Hello?
Yeah, I know.
So,
I know.
right,
I'm
things happen
distracting
all the
him.
time. Like, I'm not that guy. I'm not going to the gym for 2 hours in the day. Sometimes my best ideas will come at 2 o'clock. I get it.
Mhm.
There's more to do in the morning. But very often how we trade is it's by the opportunity, right? So opportunity is everything. And you can't dictate when it comes. All you can do is take advantage of it. So thank God we have more eyes than myself, and some really good ones, because both of them are very talented, especially in specific areas. So it's wonderful just to catch things and have ideas. Like, what I like to say is I probably generate the most, well, not probably. I mean, I definitely generate so much of the idea flow, but let me give you an example. Kira is so good intraday with seeing things. She'll often point out, oh, that stock you liked at this price is here, right? So TEM was my first idea on this morning's AM call. I said 47, then 45 I'm adding to it. Sure enough, it was 47s, and Kira's like, there it is. Rick is like a very prudent gambler, meaning he's able to find the right option and really kind of maybe put a turbo engine on something. Also, he entrusts me more than I trust myself, right? Like, he just acts. He doesn't think. The best traders do the thinking pre-market. Let me give you an example. So this morning, some guy's still learning, very sweet kid, but he's still learning, right? So he's like, Apple, do you think it's a good lotto for tomorrow? And I was like, huh? Because Apple was oversold. So I bought calls yesterday on the open when it was under 120. I bought stock, and it rallied 3 points, and I took it off. They went up like 70, 80%. I'm not saying that to show off. I'm saying that, like I said to him, that was yesterday. Now that the stock has rallied 5, 6 points off the bottom, the last stock you want to buy is a broken name in front of earnings that every analyst is bearish on. And I said, you know what? Thanks for bringing it up. It's actually a great lotto short. I wasn't trying to be cute with him. I was like, he actually had me thinking. I'm like, oh, so you know what Rick did? While I was busy with TEM and ALAB, as soon as Apple went up today, he bought 120 lottos. I think he told me, I don't know, 20 some odd cents. I haven't looked. Let's take a look together. Anyway, this really answers your question. So I got busy. I didn't do it. Rick said, oh, I trust David. And he's right. You know, he obviously has his own head. And he bought the lottos for tomorrow, the 220s. They're not killing it yet, but he's already up. He bought in the mid-20s. They're 33 cents by 34 cents. So having more eyes, we're able to basically take advantage of more information, and we have a lot of it to act upon. So it's helpful to everyone, because I'd say we all have a little bit of our own specific talents.
Mm-hmm. All right. And as David mentioned, him and I have been talking, but Rick and Kira have been managing the room, and I have the room open still, and lots happening in there still. All right.
Well,
so
let
if
me
you
give an
want to
example. TEM was just under 52. I promise you, I was dying to add. I'm like, whatever. Hopefully one of the guys that works with me added for me. But my point is that I literally would add a TEM. It's 53.50. I'm very, because I sold a bunch, 40, 54, 55. I'm guessing someone on the chat did buy it. And probably because Rick and Kira did. So there's the benefit.
Rick and Kira. And then also David, you know, in the morning lays out his plan and the levels he likes, and traders have those levels to go off of all throughout the day. They're in the room with many different names. The amount of names you go through in your morning call is impressive.
What we try to do is
quite a focus.
Go over enough. You know what I hate, and there are going to be some guy who argues with me. You always hear these things about traders. Learn 7 names and just get to know them and trade them. This is like the dumbest thing in the world. Sometimes financials aren't in vogue. Sometimes tech is in a bear market. So what I learned so long ago is there are amazing growth companies, some in bio, some in tech, some in software, some in semi, some in financials. The more you make yourself available to information, the more opportunity there is. So anyone who really wants to get good, I get it. The first year, 7 names, that's like, if you only learn 7 names, you ain't learning about TEM. You're learning about Microsoft and Apple and Google, right? You never hear about TEM. So our job is to make ourselves familiar with as many exciting opportunities as possible. So when they come up, we can take advantage of them. So that's why you hear about a lot of names.
All right, good stuff. All right, so whoever wants to go try to join the inner circle with David too, there are some requirements. You do have to apply.
Those lottos are moving. Sorry,
Yeah.
Apple's coming in, so I'm looking at it.
Yeah, you're good. Tomorrow's Lotto Friday with the inner circle, and they love to find a good lotto trade at the end of a week for a big quick move in one day. Kira had like a great lotto last week. I can't remember what it was, but
up
I can't
like
remember.
many hundreds.
But it was like
many,
like 500% or something like that. You know, I have a sheet that tracks all these. Let's see.
You're not doing promo. Shouldn't you have this and be telling them about it? I'm teasing. It
was a 95% move. You and Kira both on the Tesla Lottos, the 117 435. So there we go. See,
another company reporting next week. So that's why after this big move, I'm a little bit like calmer in terms of how much we do up here, because next week's a biggie. It'll direct the market for sure.
It is a big week next week. So if you want to get into the inner circle for that big week, go to t3live.com/DP, apply. Amber will work with you directly to get you in the room if you qualify. If not, you can ask Amber about Epic Trades. Remember, we showed that win earlier on those Netflix calls. A great trade for the newsletter. So David's got more to offer than just the inner circle. David, I'll let you get back to trading.
Dance lessons, don't forget. Okay.
Dance lessons.
Yeah, I do offer dance.
Rapping.
I know you think I'm joking, but I do that on the side. I offer dance lessons. Okay.
Great dancer, guys.
All
right, David, get back to trading.
Bye.
See you next week.
Thanks all.